Well, there's no doubt of that. I mean, we see all these reports where Congress is exempt from most of the laws they pass on us. Isn't that one of the hallmarks of tyranny?
That is absolutely right. That is when people talk about rule of law and equality before the law, it means that the same rules, the same laws that you and I must obey also apply to people in government. They must also obey them. That is, if something is immoral for you and I to do, it's immoral for government to do.
Amazing. We got 25 minutes left with him after this break. He's Walter E. Williams, and the website's walterewilliams.com. Can't forget that. We have links to it up on our websites. Just absolutely great to have him on. I remember listening to him when I was in college, way back in the early 1990s. Just great to have him on with us. We'll be right back after this quick break. Stay with us. Well, he is a professor of economics, best-selling author, nationally syndicated radio talk show host in his part-time, and a syndicated columnist. WalterEWilliams.com. His latest column out today is Americans Love Government. But I was making the point during the break to him, isn't that because we've been domesticated, brought up in it, not knowing how good it is without this giant government? And people don't know that in every case in history, government grows till it destroys the society. Can you speak to that, sir?
Yes, I can. That is, if you look at the federal government now as a percentage of our GDP, the federal government spends something like 22% of our GDP, and state and local governments spend up to, I think the total amount goes to near 40% of the GDP is spent by government in our country. Now, from 1787, the inception of our nation, from 1787 until the 1920s, the federal government spent only 3% of the GDP, except during wartime, and the state and local government spent around 9% of the GDP, and so for making for a total of 12% of the GDP, as opposed to close to 40%, was being spent by government. And keep in mind that in 1787, we were a third world nation, and by 1920, we were the most powerful nation on the face of the earth, and we were rich. That is, we went through this whole interval without a big government. And it turns out something else that's significant that Americans just plain don't know is that the idea that Congress and the White House should be involved with the economy, stimulating the economy, New Deal. This is a new idea. That is, we've had recessions and depressions that went from 1 year to 7 years throughout our whole history. And matter of fact, in 1920, there was a very, very sharp downturn in the economy. There was no government program, and we went off after that. In 1922, we went through the Roaring '20s. In the 1790, there was a Great Depression. Matter of fact, it was, I think, like 7 years, and there was no government program. Now, the government programs that deal with recessions came when there's a sharp turn down in the economy in 1929, 1930, and the Hoover administration started the government programs, and Roosevelt just followed on with it with the New Deal, and what they did, they turned what would have been in 1930, what would have been at the maximum a 3-year sharp downturn in the economy. They turned it into a 16-year affair. That is, the Great Depression was not over until 1946.
And Japan has now 12, 13 years doing the same thing. And I remember studying those panics, as they called them, and those depressions. They were much shorter. They were much more localized. Back before the Federal Reserve, back before government got involved, back before private interests got involved with government in this unholy alliance. And they promised, we'll never have another run on the bank, we'll never have another recession or depression. And then 1913 to 1929, they then take that depression and just exacerbate it with all the price controls and the rest of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you wanted to rather mark the current set of problems that we face now is a direct result of Congress. That is, I always suggest to people that the fundamentals of the American economy are, even now, still reasonably sound. We have this huge problem in the financial sector. The financial sector is a big problem, and it's affecting some other parts of the economy. But Congress is the cause of the problems in the financial sector, particularly those that stem from the subprime loans and the housing market.
It's been enabling it and demanding it and prodding it all along, and then now is enabling it further.
Yes.
$14.8 trillion in 7 months. Bloomberg reported. I mean, my God, that's more than the GDP in 7 months.
That's right. And the American people. I mean, I don't know what to say about my fellow Americans, but they're asking Congress to come and help us out to change things. That is, to ask Congress to help us, that's very much like seeing a building on fire and you calling the arsons who set it on fire to help you put it out. That's the same thing. And Congress is the cause of these problems. And you know what? And what gets me about I call it stupidity of Americans, or either the ignorance of Americans, is that Congress messed up. This current state of affairs was a result of Congress trying to give us, and the White House, trying to give us affordable housing. Now we're asking Congress to give us affordable health care.
Well, it's unbelievable. Bloomberg reported that $9.3 trillion would pay off all the mortgages in the country. So if it's 14.8 so far, where is all the money going? I mean, this is ridiculous. And they're admitting now that it's driven up mortgage prices because the banks have got all this money. They're just wanting to hoard it or to buy up other banks.
Oh, that's right. And see what Congress should do. You know, what should happen is that people who got in over their heads in the housing market, they bought houses they cannot afford, they should just lose their house and they should be foreclosed on. That is, if I think it was Herbert Spencer said, I believe it was him, it could have been somebody else, that if you protect people from the folly of their ways, you create a nation of fools. And that's what we're doing. We're protecting people from their folly and therefore creating a nation of fools. And see, the problem is that too many of us want to blame politicians for our problems. And yes, we can blame politicians just a little bit. But the bulk of the blame lies with the American people. That is because politicians are doing precisely what American people elect them to office to do. And what do we elect them to office to do? We elect them to office to use the power of their office to take the property of one American and give it to us.
Now, let's shift gears. Let's shift gears, sir, into Barack Obama. Clearly, George Bush, size of government triples. I thought that was bad. Now, under Obama, he's doubling the government in 1 year. If you project that out 10 times by the time he leaves office or even more. So specifically, sir,
I don't know whether that's sustainable, but surely that's what he's doing, and that's what the American people want. That's what they want. Look, if you doubt what I'm saying, what the American people want, let me ask you a question. Now, suppose I, Walter Williams, was running for the United States Senate from Texas, and I go back and forth across the state of Texas telling my fellow Texans, look, I've read the United States Constitution. I know what Congress is authorized to do. And if you elect me to the Senate, don't expect for me to bring back aid to higher education funds, highway construction funds, prescription drugs, Meals on Wheels. Do you think I would get elected to the Senate from Texas?
No, because maybe in Texas, but in other states, no, because they don't understand the feds take $1 of our money, send 30 cents back with strings attached.
But here's the problem, Alex, is that the people of Texas would be absolutely right not electing anybody who respected the United States Constitution to the United States Senate. The reason why is that, for example, if I am the senator and if I don't bring back billions of dollars to Texans, that doesn't mean that Texans will pay a lower federal income tax.
Exactly.
All that it means is that Oklahoma will get it instead. That is, once legalized theft begins, it pays for everybody to participate.
Oh, that's a great point. I hadn't thought of that. That's what Ron Paul's always saying. They say he's a hypocrite because he votes against the bills, but then the spending bills. But once the money comes in, he says, look, I'm going to earmark this because the money was spent. I mean, now you're paying these taxes. You don't want it to come back for the shrimp fisheries of the Gulf Coast. I mean, I represent the Gulf Coast, and so if I don't take this earmark, it's gonna go to foreign aid or something.